if I make something that I like, isn't it logical that those people who are like me are going to like that same thing as well?
What does it actually take to transition from being a regular videographer to becoming a filmmaker? Well, our guest today is Abrar Hussain. Now, if you scrolled through Amazon Prime, flown with Qatar Airways, or even travelled with Saudi Arabian Airlines, there's a good chance you've seen his work. He's the filmmaker behind powerful documentaries like A Day in the Haram, One Night in Al-Aqsa, and his latest release, Medina, the Enlightened City. But his story didn't start with production teams and global distribution. It starts the way most of our stories do. Just a guy with a camera, shooting the odd project here and there, but quietly wondering, could I ever really do this for a living? Abrar is completely self-taught. No film school, no industry shortcuts, just obsession, risk, and relentless self-belief. In today's episode, we speak to Abrar about transitioning from a regular videographer to filmmaker and discuss the elephant in the editing room. AI film production. How AI is changing the game for filmmakers, producers, and editors everywhere. Is it a threat or is it a tool? My name is Cameron Khan, and this is your local entrepreneur podcast. You've made 3 great feature films, which have gone on, like, I've been to the premiere in Leicester Square, which was super cool for me. Your movies have appeared on Amazon Prime, because I saw that flash up as well. So, yeah, just give us a little spiel about who you are, please, sir.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I always find this the hardest thing to do, like in terms of talking about myself. But I'm my name's Abrar Hussain. As you mentioned, I'm a producer, a writer, and a director. I'm kind of like a self-trained filmmaker, so I kind of know something about all aspects of filmmaking. From the production, pre-production, post-production. I kind of cover the whole spectrum or oversee the whole process. Currently, I run a film production company called Red Face Films, and we specialize in faith-driven films that are kind of at the intersection between really spiritual, faith-driven content and technologically advanced content. So we're kind of just sitting nicely there in that position at the moment.
Now, like, I know, for example, there's so many videographers out there who love to see themselves become filmmakers. There's plenty of people who pick up a camera and they make the odd little ad for the coffee shop or the restaurant, but they want to do something bigger. So, for you, what do you think? I'm guessing your early beginnings were something like that. So, how do you transition from being that guy into becoming a full-on filmmaker?
It's funny with filmmaking and with producers, not so much producers, directors. It's funny with directors because if you look at the current age and where we're at, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like everyone is a director. Everyone's become a director because of social media. So there's so many people recording their own content and they've all become directors. Whereas if it was still just films and TV shows, there'd be a much less percentage of people who are directing or looking to go into that. So, the situation, the landscape has just changed like impossibly over the last 20 years. It's just been phenomenal to see and to live through that. Because I started my career when there were no phones, there was no social media. Everything was film and everything was, television, everything was budgets. And now people are becoming directors. People are shooting films on iPhones. And so it's just become so accessible, So, alhamdulillah, I think, with me, it's like with most things, I kind of feel like it was an accident. I feel like I fell into this. I had a passion, from when I was 10 years old. I was 10, I was running around with a camcorder, I was filming everything because I just loved filming things. I loved filming things, I loved framing things, I loved putting the edit together, all of these things. And so I kind of just grew up with it. And then for me, it was a natural progression because that's what I'd always done, or even to really early young memories, of events and family functions and things like that I'd film and edit and put out these videos that only my family would see. And just as I grew, as I got older and more mature and started realizing what a producer is and what a director is and what the difference between these two things is, and, picking up more and more knowledge, to pick up bigger camera systems and more advanced technologies was just second nature. It was just everything came natural. I never felt like I was learning. I was always just progressing. And I had a real, like I say, it's like they say, if you're passionate about something, you're doing the work you're really passionate about, it's like you'll never work a day in your life. And I actually really believe that because I know that to be true. I know that's true.
Because I'm trying to think now back. like now we have so many, like you said, the access to information is very easy. You can access YouTube videos, and there's even short form content on TikTok on how to do certain things in cinematography and lenses and everything else. You didn't have the benefit of that. So how did you navigate your way in a, I'm assuming, I'm assuming as well that your family not traditionally in the filmmaking business.
No.
So how do you navigate around that, and how did you actually get your information?
I mean, so this is the thing, like, as you say, it wasn't a proven career choice. It wasn't anything my parents would approve of. It wasn't anything they would support me in, because they'd see it as frivolous or something. Like, it's a hobby, it was a hobby. And it was that for me for a long time. I even went to university. I didn't study filmmaking. I studied business IT, which, to be fair to business IT, has come in useful in the producing side of things. I do use some of those business and marketing skills that I picked up in my degree. But generally, in terms of filmmaking, no formal education. And all that happened was the passion just outshone or kind of out-delivered on the actual work that I was doing, being a manager or being like, some kind of business consultant or whatever it was. The filmmaking just, it just overtook that. The sheer passion of it overtook that. So I ended up taking a risk. You have to take a risk. I think if you're going to be a filmmaker, you have to take a risk. And I took a risk in terms of I dropped out of quite a well-paid job at the time, quite a well-paid job being a manager for a large retail outlet and managing a big sales force of like 22 people. I dropped that and I went to make a really low-budget television show because someone gave me the opportunity to make a low-budget television show, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for this. And said, well, what we say, Bismillah, and just went for it.
Did you like announce to your family, like, oh, by the way, guys, I've quit my job and I'm going to be my full-time film guy?
I did announce it to my family.
Oh, they say, you do weddings and stuff, huh?
Well, that was a really difficult conversation because they simply just didn't understand it. And they were like, are you mad? Are you absolutely... They actually thought I'd gone crazy. They really tried to talk me out of it. I think, my mother and father especially, they tried to talk me out of it, because they were used to, okay, the son's bringing in this amount of money and it's helping, with the family, with everyone. So that everyone had their kind of vested interest in it.
And it's secure.
Yeah, and it's secure.
It security.
That's the most important thing for them. Yeah, they were like, no, you've done it. You've done a degree. You've got this job now. You're working. You're enjoying yourself. Because to be fair, I was enjoying that job as well. It wasn't something that I hated. I actually quite liked it. I'm a natural salesperson, which is a great skill to have as a filmmaker as well. I'm a natural salesperson, and it was kind of sales focused and target driven. And I was earning some nice bonuses every month, and so this kind of thing was appealing. But like I say, the sheer passion of the craft and the sheer passion for making films and the desire to make films, it just kind of outworked everything else until it became the most important thing I wanted to do. And I was like, no, you have to make a commitment to yourself. And as I said, take that risk. And I took that risk. And my pay dropped by over 2/3. So, essentially I was on 60K a year and dropped down to a job that literally paid me 20K a year, with no expenses, no bonuses. So, it was a substantial risk. What I said to my parents, though, and I think, this is a sensible conversation, I'm actually impressed with myself, have this conversation then, was, look, give me 12 months. Let me do this for 12 months. If I don't work it, if it's not successful, if I don't succeed in 12 months, if I can't show something for it, I'm going to do everything you say and I'm going to listen to you. If you say to me, get a job in this field, I'm actually literally going to listen to you. I'm going to take your advice and we're going to do it your way. And so they kind of reluctantly agreed to that. And literally I said to them, you're going to have to subsidize me through this year as well because the pay is going to be X amount. So obviously they couldn't understand the decision. They don't understand anything about, the creativity or the filmmaking or the desire to do something that you really feel is your calling to do. But I feel like you have to trust your instincts. Instincts are there for a reason, gut feelings are there for a reason. And, as a Muslim as well, I just really felt this is my path. This is the path that has been chosen for me. So I don't see anything as accidents. I don't see anything as coincidences. I don't see anything as fate. I personally, I don't believe in fate. I believe in a path that has been outlined for you. And so picking that first camcorder up at 10 years old, through all that process that I went through, I thought it's all led me logically to this point in my career where I am now. And the journey continues.
So it's the old cliche, isn't it? Like taking a bet on yourself and taking a shot.
Yeah.
And how split was you? Like, was you quite split internally about?
No, I wasn't.
Not at all. You knew.
I was 100% sure. I was 100% sure. And this is the funny thing. Where did that confidence come from? Because that's not internal to me, but I knew it. If I took that year, it would be successful and it would lead somewhere. I was 100% sure. I mean, if I wasn't 100% sure, I wouldn't have taken that risk, So you do need to be sure of yourself, and you do need to be confident. You need to trust in your own skills, that you have the skills. This is the thing. even before I made that first show, I was watching things on TV. I was watching shows and I was watching things at the cinema, even feature films that people had made. And I was looking at them and I was thinking, but I could do that better. I could do that better. And I thought, even if I'm not going to be a groundbreaker, even if I'm not going to do amazing world-class projects, I know I'm good enough to work. I know I have enough skills and enough belief in myself to work and to get work, competing with other directors who are there in the industry. So that was my confidence, and that was an internal confidence. But where did that come from? It didn't just magic itself there. Obviously, I had some kind of a higher force. I felt like that was guiding my career at that point, and even taking that risk, I think, was all part of it.
But I do find sometimes with creatives, they are full of a lot of self-doubt as well. Like, for example, you can make, I mean, I know a videographer, I've done some videography myself. I'm in the beginning, I've been making things, and I think that's a masterpiece, actually. And then I see something else, and I was like, oh my God, what I just made was complete pants. And then you're always kind of second guessing yourself. Will the audience like this? Will the person I make this for like this? But you kind of, did you ever feel like that at any point? Or was you fully confident that you knew the work that you're producing was good enough to be out there?
Yeah, as I say, I don't know where the confidence came from, because I don't seem to have been confident in lots of other things, but I was just so sure of this. And it's interesting, one of my friends I was having a conversation with, and he said to me, do you ever get that imposter syndrome? Do you ever get that imposter syndrome? He was right at the beginning. And I was like, I thought about it and I was like, no, I actually don't get that imposter syndrome. I feel like I am where I'm meant to be, and I feel like I've got the skills to back up the position that I'm in. So I've never felt imposter. I've always felt this is where I belong. So imposter syndrome is not something that has ever attacked me, but I can understand, as you mentioned, that lots of creatives might have that doubt, especially if success doesn't come quickly. If it's a grind, if it's a grind to get recognized, it's a grind for people to understand the beauty in your work, or how brilliant your work is, or whatever it may be. I feel, and that's not just across creatives. I think that's everyone in the performing arts as well. People who are doing comedy, careers like fashion, for example. These careers take a lot of self-belief. You have to have just an iron will, and you have to just believe so much. And this is at a time before all this manifestation philosophy came out. So now people are like, no, believe and it will come. At that time, there was no philosophy. I'd never heard of anything like that, but I really did believe. And I feel like maybe because of that belief, it came. That because I displayed that confidence and that, or some would say arrogance in my early career, which, that's something that's been leveled at me, and that's okay. I can understand that, but it wasn't ever arrogance. It was just confidence, because I know I'd put the work in. I know, I knew everything about a camera. I knew everything about a camera. You couldn't talk to me about a camera or some function of the camera or some advancement in the camera that I wouldn't know about. So I just felt like prepared, and I felt like, I'd earned the place that I was sitting. I'd earned the place at the table where I was sitting.
And did you ever, like, in those 12 months, did you have any second doubts in those 12 months where you thought, what, this isn't really going to as planned as I thought?
Yeah, I'd say there were ups and downs for sure. I mean, it's like any production, any production I've ever done, there's been ups and downs. Very few productions, especially if they're big productions, are going to be smooth sailing. You have to be ready for that. And, I think there were definitely moments of doubt. There were definitely moments where I thought, oh, have I actually bitten off more than I can chew? And then there's the other side of it as well, when the project gets big and it starts to spiral out of control. And other people, because say, for example, no one believes in your work here, but once your work starts getting a bit of recognition and, you're in The Guardian, you're on ITV, you're, these different media outlets have picked up, suddenly people start believing. And when people start believing, sometimes they want to have more influence on it. Oh, wait, actually, this is really, really good. Like, I think this, I think that. Whereas I had my vision from the start. I don't want their input necessarily at that point, I'm a very collaborative filmmaker. Like, I'll listen to everyone's opinion. But obviously, when you're cooking a pie, you need to have one cook who cooks the pie, else the pie will get messed up. And that was exactly my philosophy with the work. I was happy to hear people's opinions, but, I was going to make the final decision on all creative aspects of the work. And that was from the first project. And that's something I've maintained all the way through to the current project. So I'm like, can have whatever influence. I will listen to your opinions, because especially executive producers, they want to know that you're not just going to be a maverick and you're not going to ignore their advice. Reassure them. I listen to everyone's advice, whether it's the runner, whether it's the runner or the guy who's just picking up experience, or whether it's the most seasoned, experienced executive producer. I'll listen to everyone because I love hearing opinions, but I will make the final decision, especially if it's something to do with the creative. So yeah, there is that when it spirals out of control and people do try and have more of an influence than they should be having, and that I found that very difficult to deal with. I wasn't equipped to deal with that because that was more of a almost like a a HR kind of issue, like almost more like a managing people issue, which I wasn't, the most. Although I was a manager, I did manage people, so I had some experience, but I wasn't used to managing the egos that were in the kind of media sphere. They're much different. The egos in the media sphere are much different.
Okay, this is a question from a layman who doesn't really know much about. I know about producers and directors and so forth, right? So, like, if you're going to embark on a project, what positions need to be filled in your mind? So, for example, like one thing I've always wondered, and some people knows the artist anyway, right? Definitely you. The producer is the guy who does, because I thought the director, he calls the shots on how we're going to do this. So what does the producer do?
Okay, so the director calls the creative shots. Generally, if he's a good director and he's got, he's arranged that kind of thing. Obviously, there always comes in different projects. I'd say the relationships vary, so they can sway. A director can have complete control of a project at the start, but then the producer might start exerting more influence, or the executive producer might exert more influence. As the project goes along. But the thing is that the producer is normally who comes first. So the producer comes. The producer actually employs the director usually.
So is the producer the money man?
Sorry,
is the producer the money man?
He's not necessarily the money man, but he's the one who put the money man, who's got the money men together. He's the one who's approached the executive producer, got the finance involved, and then he's appointed the director, and then the director has appointed all the rest of the crew. So they leave it. If I got appointed to direct a project, then they'd normally say, okay, whichever crew you want to bring aboard, let's recruit those people, let's get those on board the project. Because normally, if you're a good cinematographer or a good editor, you're normally working freelance. Very very few of the top quality editors or A-grade editors, cinematographers I met are working for companies. They're always freelance because they're always in demand because they're that good. And so you'd assemble your crew together, and that would be the director's responsibility. But the director is in control. Sometimes the way a project would work, a director would have an idea. It's like, I want to make this film or this project, right? Then he would seek a producer to help him put the finance together for that. Because, people have to understand, to make a film, it's just a mammoth project. It's a mammoth project spanning multiple departments and sometimes hundreds of people, even on like, say, One Day in the Haram, for example, the film that you mentioned, that had over 100 people working on that film in different important aspects of that film, critical aspects of that film. And each of those was important in terms of their own, what they're doing. And some were obviously core, and you have to manage all of these people. And so it's very difficult to it's very difficult to wing that. It's very difficult, not to have, because the thing becomes so big, it's almost impossible to control it all, especially if you're looking after the creative. But then I really admire these kind of filmmakers like Clint Eastwood, for example. He produces most of his own films as well. And that's so much extra work. And, I'd quite like it if I could separate that. If there were a producer that I could really trust and you had a really good relationship with, it's beautiful to separate that so you can really concentrate on the creative, on the shots, on putting the story together and these kind of things. But if you're half the time worried about that and then half the time worried, okay, what about this budget? How am I going to stretch this? What am I going to do here? Where's this getting distributed? All those other questions that come with the release of the film and the distribution of the film. That's a whole separate thing where the producer really shows his value in those parts.
Oh wow! I was going to say, when you were filming One Night in the Haram, did you ever have a pinch me moment where you're like, I'm actually doing this out here, or was you just in the flow?
Oh no, every day. At night I would go to sleep on the days of that shoot. The shoot was probably around a month or less than a month. Yeah. Every night going back to the hotel, shattered from shooting the 12, 16 hours, whatever we'd done that day, I would go and I would thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thank God for allowing me this. And it was really, really surreal to me. It was so surreal. I think the thing from beginning to end was surreal. Even the way the project came about, even getting the project, and then the actual filming, what you're talking about, were the most surreal moments of all. Sometimes I'd just be walking in the Haram. I'd be next to if you've been to the Haram, some of my friends went recently. One of my friends actually from Singapore, as a contact of mine in Singapore, just went to Haram and sent me, a message saying, "Do you want me to make any dua for you? I'm here at the Haram." And I said, "Yeah, please pray for this." And I did that. And then I said, "How is it there?" She goes, "Oh, it's busy." She goes, "Abrar, I've got newfound respect. I had respect for you before, but I've got newfound respect for you." I said, "Why is that?" She said, "It's just mad here. It's absolutely crazy. How did you film One Day in the Haram here? It's just what you did is just a madness. It's just crazy." mean, I think people, when they go to Umrah, then they really appreciate how much work and what a world-class product, an iconic product we put together in one day in the Haram, because it was just an impossible shoot to do. And sometimes, go back to your question about pinch me moments. I mean, every single day I'll be in that mataf, I'll be next to the Kaaba, I'll be next to the Black Stone, I'll be flying over Mecca, whatever it was we were doing that day. I'll be like, my God, is this actually really happening, or is this all just a dream? Like it was just surreal, absolutely surreal.
So was the horror movies an idea that you had already conjured up, or was it something that somebody presented to you to say we want to do something like this?
This is one of the reasons going back to your earlier, what you mentioned about confidence and whether I was confident that I was going to do it in that initial 1 year that I'd said to my parents. I mean, I was confident because one thing that I did have and had a track history of was coming out with great concepts, great ideas, and I'm very much an ideas person. And, coming out of new and fresh and original concepts was literally my forte from very, very young, not in filmmaking, in anything. So in telling a story in terms of a business idea, or I had a very original thinking mind. So I came out with good creative ideas. And with One Day in the Haram, it literally was just something, like all best ideas, I think, you just have them suddenly. It's not like a long, you're thinking round about the subjects. I'm thinking, okay, what if I made a film in the Haram? What would that actually be about? What would it actually look like? And visualizing all these things in your mind. But suddenly one day I went to sleep and I didn't really have a clear concept what I was going to do. In fact, I was getting to the stage where I was getting a little bit worried about it because the shoot was coming up soon. And I really had to firm down exactly how we were going to do this, the detail, yeah. And I went to sleep, woke up in the morning, and subhanAllah, I just had everything. I had everything from A to Z. And I think that's how great concepts and great ideas often come. It's like you've got something in your subconscious and suddenly your subconscious puts it together in your sleep and suddenly out it comes and it's just beautiful and it's perfect and it just works. As film, we use this term, if something works or not, and suddenly I just knew this is going to work. This is going to be really, really good. And that concept was to make the film. There was two main concepts. One was to make the film from the perspective of the workers, which no one had ever done in the world before. No one had ever made a film from the perspective. People had done it from the perspective of the worshippers who'd come from other countries. But I was much more interested in the people who were there all the time, who literally lived there, who worked there, who served the Haram. It was kind of a serve that they were serving God. So this was the really interesting angle for me. And the other thing that came to me that same day, as when I woke up in the morning, the other thing was, let's structure the film the way Islam structures the day, over the 5 prayers. So the 5 prayers literally broke down the film. And that was just a beautiful moment when I had that, because when I had that, I think from that day, I knew it was going to be really, really good. I didn't know whether a lot of people were going to watch that, because I think, that audience opinion, you can never tell. I don't have that confidence where I'm saying I'm going to make something that it's going to be really, really successful. That's a different thing. I knew it was going to be really, really good. I knew that I was going to be really satisfied with this because I'd come out of a really good concept, and I knew that I had the skills and the vision to actually create it the way that I was seeing it in my head. So all those things were dependent on me, and the things that were dependent on me, alhamdulillah, I was very, very comfortable and confident with. Obviously, distribution and audience reactions, you can never control that kind of thing. I'd never say I have that kind of confidence,
And it got picked up by Amazon Prime. I mean, it came on my Prime list.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, I was overjoyed. Yeah, not because it got on Amazon Prime. I was overjoyed because I knew that lots of non-Muslims, people who aren't necessarily, associated with the Haram or people who are necessarily thinking about the Haram, were going to be able to have access and watch this film. And that gave me a great sense of joy, because it spills into another form of something else, which is like dawah, and that was just a great moment. There were lots of great moments with the distribution, ending up on several airlines, Emirates Air, people were ringing me saying, I got your film on I'm watching it.
It was a Qatar Airlines.
I'm flying here and I'm watching your film. That was surreal. The moment we got Apple TV as well, that was amazing, and so many deals came, and then, international deals started to come, all the different territories around the world. That's, I think, when I first actually understood the business model of filmmaking. Because one thing is to make a great product, as the director of this product, but also remember I was a producer on One Day in the Haram as well. So how do we get this out in front of audiences? How do we distribute this? And so even that model that we came up with was just fantastic. And like I say, the blessings just continue. I always say that was just a really blessed project. It was just a project that really kind of changed my life. And I think, if you do want to really get to a higher level in filmmaking, you are going to have to make something that makes people go, wow. People have to say, wow. If people are not saying, wow, when you make your first film, then there's going to be issues, because with films, they're such big projects and they cost so much money to put together that if you fail in that first film, you're unlikely to get a second chance. This is the harsh reality of it. I mean, some people do. They work and claw and get them. So if you make a successful first film, more projects will come.
I remember reading about Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
He had a famous thing that he said. It was like, make the movie that you want to see and start there.
Absolutely. I think it's logical, right? It's logical because say I'm representative of the people who are like me. Say I'm representative of Muslims. I'm representative of British Asians. I'm representative of many different things. If I make something that I like, isn't it logical that those people who are like me are going to like that same thing as well? So it's always, I think that what you just said about Quentin, I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah, make the thing that you like. You have to be happy with what you're doing. You have to be happy with what you're doing. I think I think there can't be anything worse than making a product that you're not into, that you're not 100% feeling it, and you're putting it out. That I'm terrified when I put a film out, even though I really like it. So it must be horrible I'm imagining to put out a film that you don't like or that you're not into, or it's not a subject that is interesting for you and it's not exactly how you wanted it to be. I think that would be very harsh. Like, alhamdulillah, I've not had that test yet. Maybe that's something that will come, who knows.
How do you think, how does someone like you get on the radar, if that makes sense? Because for a while you're just doing your filmmaking and everything else. Is there anything you would suggest or an example or even some advice on how to get noticed, I guess, in this space?
Yeah, how to get noticed. Make a amazing kick-ass product. Like make something, as mentioned earlier, make something that makes people go, wow. Like that's so important and it's not just film, it's every career. If you're if you're a graphic designer, if you're a fashion designer, if you're working in a legal office somewhere, smash a case, smash a case there. If you're a police officer, catch a criminal there, do the thing that gets you noticed. You have to do that. I think it's the same with any career. You have to make noise if you want to get ahead. I mean, I spent many years not making noise, not really. There was success, but I spent those years honing my craft. And if you're passionate about filmmaking is one of those things where the people who are in filmmaking are normally ultra passionate. They're literally in it to make films. I feel that's changing now with, like, say, everyone thinks they're a director now. Executive producers, which is the worst. Yeah, executive producers think they're directors now, and so they'll try and get more of those conversations where they're trying to say, "Oh, but you should do the angle like that and do the angle like." I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, go back to your. I don't want to be disrespectful because obviously people have funded films, but stick in your lane. To be a successful team. Everyone has to stick in their positions. You can't be a successful team if everyone's running up front trying to score a goal. I mean, you just have to. It just has to have the wow factor, and that's how you will get noticed. But for me, I was grinding for years and years and years without really anyone noticed. But I was very fulfilled. I was very fulfilled personally. I was flying out. I spent 5 years, literally just flying out to the most deprived and most poverty-stricken places in the world. Going out to countries like Ethiopia, going out to Sudan, going out to Swat Valley when the Taliban was there, going out to disaster zones. Yeah. And I was making these films that the NGOs that were my clients at that time were literally using these films to raise millions of pounds for people who are in dire need. It was very fulfilling work. In fact, just last week, I was talking to a very good friend of mine called Bali in Dubai, and Bali basically runs a charity out there. And he was talking about, I had difficulty getting hold of him actually because he was in Chad, and I was like, "What are you doing in Chad?" He goes, "Oh, bro, if you saw the people here," and I was like, "You know what? I'm coming out to Chad. Let me know the next time. Obviously, you're there now. I can't come right now, but next time you go, let me know because you know why? I just like to remind myself of how privileged I am." And just say alhamdulillah for all my blessings, because people don't realize how privileged they are even just living in this country. I know it's hard. Cost of living, yeah, it's terrible, man. Cost of living, yeah. I know there's especially there's an older generation out there that can't afford their heating bills. They can't afford, the cost of living is terrible. But there's people out there who just literally haven't eaten for weeks and weeks and weeks. There's people that are starving out there. So, I remembered back to my earlier days when I went out and did all these charity missions for these NGOs and how fulfilling that was for me. I never had a need to, let's go and make a big mainstream film. I was so fulfilled from the work and I was still getting paid. So I was still making enough to feed myself, feed my family. And that was it. I didn't have a massive desire for, to achieve massive financial success at that point. I was just fulfilled in the work, and I loved the work, and I loved making these great videos that audiences, when they watch these videos, would really respond, and there would be a massive amount of fundraising off the back of those videos. So And that's why I said to Bali, man, get me out there because I want to remember that feeling again. Because since I started making feature-length films and documentaries, I haven't actually been out to an international country on that kind of mission for a good 7-8 years now. Wow. So I really, and I literally, when Bali was speaking to me, I was literally like, man, I need to get back out there because I need to remind myself of how fortunate I am, how privileged I am. And I think we all need that at some point.
Do you reckon, so then like, one thing we spoke about before was like having the opportunity.
Yeah.
Like at one point, I remember just hoping someone give me the opportunity to do whatever it is I wanted. Like this thing I want to do. If only someone just gave me a chance. And then, like, thankfully, you're in a country where you could kind of like, I don't know if it's too dream's sake, but you could almost make your own opportunities. So would you say that England is still a country of opportunity?
Yes and no. I think wherever you are in the world, if your desire is that great, if you really have got a desire, then you need to create your own opportunity. No one's going to give you an opportunity. Like, do you think like, I find it difficult to think about someone somewhere who's in a big media house or a big production company or a big, studio, a production studio, giving some unknown director or producer a chance. There's too much risk. There's too much risk or they all go wrong. So you're not going to get that big budget from waiting. You'll be waiting your whole life. You'll be waiting your whole. You do need to create. I mean, I would definitely advise go and do it yourself. If you've got the talent and the belief, go and do it yourself. Do it low budget. And do you know how many stories out of Hollywood? I don't like talking about Hollywood, but you know how many stories there are in Hollywood of actors who've done that. Think of Good Will Hunting. Those two actors. What are their names? Ben Affleck.
And Matt Damon.
And they were two best friends. I love that story. They're two best friends. They were just taking a chance. And they wrote this beautiful, brilliant screenplay that was Good Will Hunting. They wrote that. They created that opportunity for themselves. Created that opportunity for themselves. No one was giving them a shot in Hollywood. Do you think they were just one of like thousands of actors doing waiting jobs and trying to, get a break in Hollywood? They created the opportunity themselves. Vin Diesel, same thing. No one was giving him a shot. He made his own film and put himself as a star because he wanted to be an actor. Sylvester Stallone. It goes on and on and on. There's so many of them. And so many people have used that self-belief and that determination just to say, no, okay, if the industry's not giving me a chance, I'll make my own chance. If the industry's not giving me an opportunity, I'll do it. And I think that as we talked about, everyone's a filmmaker now with social media. And I think social media has opened up possibilities for so many people to do more things, like to really showcase their talent like that.
Free distribution at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
You could call it really.
And you can distribute films on there. And say you distribute a film clip on there, say it gets 10 million hits. You might get a deal off that. So yes, you should be knocking on doors. You should be asking for opportunities, but you should have something to show that you've done yourself. Because this isn't Disney World. This is not a Disney where someone's going to give you an opportunity.
You got talent, kid.
Yeah. You got to work for it. You got to do it yourself and off your own grind. I don't think you should rely on anyone. If you really think it's your calling, then you should really.
No, it's like those other English actors, Simon Pegg and the other guy. They made Shaun of the Dead, I think.
Right. Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead and the
amazing film.
And what was the other the police one they
Was
made?
it Hot Fuzz, was it?
Hot Fuzz,
yeah.
Hilarious movies, obviously, but the first one was Shaun of the Dead, which I think he wrote it, directed it, everything, just them two together.
Talented guy.
And now he's in like Mission Impossible right next to Tom Cruise.
This is exactly how it works. I think this is exactly how a lot of people are getting. A lot of people have that opportunity and they grasp it with both hands. They grasp it and then they don't let go from there. Because that opportunity is so big. At that level that. But like I say, if you're starting out, though, you really need to look at people like that rather than looking at, where's the big company that's going to expecting someone to do something for you. No one's really going to do something for you in this industry. It's I'd say incredibly hard to break into interview. And, when I was doing the Q&As for the films, because I always do the Q&A, I always at some point, some young 16-year-old will put out his hand and say, how do I break into the industry? I really, really want to do it. And I'd always temper my advice to them because, the natural instinct is to say, like I did, I took a risk. I went for it, right? I explained my risk that I took earlier, but I don't advise that to other young kids. I feel like it would be irresponsible of me to say, just go for it. Yeah, go for it, because I know that the competition out there is so tough. I know it's such a tough industry to break through. I know that half of them will not make it. They won't make it because either they haven't got enough talent for lack of a better word. They haven't got the talent, or they haven't got enough determination to succeed. You know, you need both of these things in abundance. You need it in abundance to make it in this industry, because it's a very tough industry. So I don't want to say to some 16-year-old who's looking up to me and my career and be like, just go for it, because they might end up not doing it. So I always temper the advice. Say, look, go for it. Follow your dreams. Yeah, follow your dreams. But always have a plan B. Always follow up on the education. Always follow up on the skill. Always have something, so that if it doesn't work out, you know, or maybe it's not coming for a long while, you know, people wait 10 or 15 years to get their break. So if it's not coming, you've got something else to fall back on where you can still, you know, earn a living and you know, support your family or whatever else that you want to do, you know. So that's my advice generally.
Yeah, I think, not to reference Tarantino again, but he did.
You like Tarantino?
I do.
I'm seeing a theme here.
I do like his movies until we found out recently how much of a so-and-so he can be.
This is the thing. I've promised. I'll come into this in a minute, but I promised myself I'll never watch another Tarantino.
I mean, well, they have the thing, the art and the personality, right?
Yeah.
But there was one thing he did say. It was like it took 12 years to become an overnight success.
Yes, very true. Again, he says a lot of good stuff. I mean, he says a lot of things that I agree with. Right? I used to love the guy, you know, but definitely, you know, people think I came with One Day in the Harem. They didn't see the 10 years that I'm grinding before that in a very low-paid job, you know, going out to these difficult places I mentioned, like Lebanon, refugee camps, you know, disaster zones, going out there. People don't see that. They think, oh, he made One Day in the Harem, he's successful. No, it didn't start there. Obviously, the grind starts well before then. You know, I was grinding for years and years and years where no one would give me credit or respect. I had to leave the UK and go to Saudi Arabia to live in order to get that budget to make a film like One Day in the Harem. So again, another massive risk I took. I think my career is littered with risks that I took to get to this position. So, you know, overnight success, that took 10 years to achieve. 100% agree with that. Can I just tell you, I mean, I don't know if you want to hear it, but do you want to hear why I don't like Quentin anymore?
Go on then.
Look, because I grew up with Quentin. Quentin was one of the most important filmmakers to me.
Great filmmaker.
I literally would take shots out of Quentin's films and put them in my own films. Yeah, literally. That's how much I liked his visual style and you know, his screenplay. You know, it just all, you know, a lot of things. It falls down on, you know, humanity and where you stand with it. And I don't want to bring politics into this discussion because I think we're having a really nice creative discussion. But Quentin, I have to draw a line. I've promised myself I'm never going to watch another Quentin film. I'm never going to support another Quentin film because, you know, he's speaking out for Israel, and you know, it's just something that I can't accept from someone that I used to look up to. And you know, I feel like there's so many other great filmmakers out there.
It happened to a lot of us.
I'm going to miss him. Yeah,
it happened to a lot of us. Even The Rock came out and was like, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's true that we have found out, not only on the political side of things, everybody has found that Quentin is a bit of a knob, to say another word.
Yes,
he attacked another.
You know, I forgive him that knobbish stuff. Yeah, I would forgive him that. I can't forgive him the Israel comments, but I'll forgive him the knobbish stuff, even though I think it's a little distasteful. And he was really good friends with Harvey Weinstein as well. Really, yeah, really tight.
There's a lot to read between the lines of those chaps.
Yeah. So the talent comes in weird places.
So, do you have favorite directors and screenplays? Are you a fan of any directors that you particularly like their work?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I you know, one of the ways I learnt my craft was from watching films, and I loved watching films. But I wouldn't watch films like a normal person would watch films, like for entertainment, because films are essentially used as entertainment. I would use films as a university, so I would learn. So when I'm watching a film and I'm watching, okay, these characters are moving here, what's the blocking like? Why have they got the lighting like that? Why is the camera moving in this way? How did they do that scene? Why did he say that line at this particular point? Like, how is the dramatic tension increasing here? How is the narrative going forward here? So all these things. So literally, for about 10 years of my life, I didn't enjoy a single film because it was just studying for me. And since these last sort of 5 or 6 years, I've started to enjoy films again because I've allowed myself to go into a cinema, watch a film and just turn off, just turn off, because I've needed that now. I've needed to turn off, I've come to that place in my career where I don't need to strive every day to learn something new, and I'm not that desperate for it anymore, because I think I've had, just a moderate amount of success, but, I'm very satisfied with it. That's the thing. Internally, I'm very satisfied with what I've done and what I've achieved. So I feel, I spent 10 years just watching great films and just learning from them, and now I want to watch great films and just enjoy them as entertainment as everyone else does.
I mean, are there any films which you particularly just love the direction, the screenplay, and just how everything was well thought out? Like for me, I've always loved, I don't know if you saw the last Batman movie, the Christopher Nolan one, the latest ones that happened, right?
Yeah.
Every single shot.
Oh, it was amazing.
He hit the nail. Like, I don't think anybody else will appreciate this, but I know a videographer will and a cinematographer will out there for sure. Like, every single scene was just, it was that movie. And funny enough, even Sin City,
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
Sin
I
City-
loved Sin City.
he
I
kept the
love-
comical.
Oh man, just the way that film looked was unlike anything else out there at that time. So, I'm a big fan of originality. I'm a big fan of seeing something that I haven't seen before. In fact, that's what I strive for all the time, just to see something that I've not seen before. That's what I want, and that's what I try and bring into my productions as well, have that feeling for the audience. And Sin City, when it came out, you'd never seen cinematography like that before. It just looked incredible, so crisp, so sharp. That the way it was written, it was just amazing. 300 as well. Very similar, like a kind of visual style that you hadn't seen before. So I really appreciate those films, even though they might be action films, or someone might say, oh, they're just entertainment action films. Yeah, they are, but there's a lot to learn in the visual of those films, and I think the visual language of those films is beautiful. And I hope one day I can make a film that kind of along that line, where people look at it and say, wow, I've never really seen anything like that before. Because people did with One Day in the Harem. People were literally like, I've never seen anything like, I've never seen the harem shown in that way. That's why so many of the shots of that film have become iconic, because people had never seen it framed in that way before. They'd never seen it with that kind of quality, So yeah, there's something I strive for. But, talking of favorite films, I've got to go back to the original, which I always go back to originals, and the film that has probably influenced me more than any other film, if I had to choose one, because there's so many, I'd say The Godfather. The Godfather is probably the film, even now, sometimes The Godfather's just on, so you go, it's just on, it's a long film. You're in the middle of it. If I come in the middle of Godfather and it's on the TV, I end up watching the whole thing. Yes. I end up, even though I've watched it 20 times, I just get drawn into that film. The scenes of that film just draw you in, and it's just so compelling. So yeah, I'd definitely say The Godfather's been a massive, massive impact on me. Pulp Fiction was a huge impact on me because it was fresh, original when it came. Again, it goes back to the themes of what I like. I like things that I haven't seen before, things that show me something different, So that was a massive theme. And I don't know if you remember this film. I can't remember the name of the director, but he's very big in Hollywood now. But it was his first film, and it was called Amores Perros. You know who it was directed? It was directed, I can't remember his name, it's on the tip of my tongue, but the director who directed Leonardo DiCaprio's film, The Revenant.
Okay.
Now, it's the cinematography in Revenant.
Yeah, to be fair with you, I saw one of it once. I did enjoy it because I remember there was a thing about how he gets attacked by the bear.
Yeah, there was that scene.
Yeah. And he does get mauled by the bear, which was filmed really well, actually.
That's a big, just sorry to cut you there, but that's a big takeaway, yeah? If you're making a film, put one scene in there that everyone will talk about. Yeah. Because that bear scene is famous, more famous than the film. Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, that scene, do you remember where he cut off the air? Right? It's a very violent scene. Everyone was talking about that scene.
And the soundtrack.
Within a film product, you can have one scene that will literally propel the film forward. So anyway, just a side note there. But yeah, that director who directed The Revenant, he directed his first film was called Amores Perros. And it was just an incredible film. It made a star out of Gal Garcia. I can't remember his name, the guy who was in that film, because it's a foreign language.
Andy Garcia.
It was a foreign language film, so I think it's an Argentinian film or something like that. I don't know if you've got internet there, you can look up who directed Amores Perros or who directed The Departed. It's that same guy, and that film Amores Perros really affected me a lot. And you know what that translates at? It translates to Life's a Bitch. And it was just a film that blew me away. And, I'm a big fan of international cinema. So, if you're like me and you've watched so many films, you kind of kill off the American UK films after a very short span. So I got into French cinema, French New Wave. I was watching all the French classics. Then I was watching Japanese cinema. That was a great phase. I love Japanese cinema, Korean cinema, these kind of things, Iranian cinema. I was watching all these different things and getting influence, allowing all these influences to wash over me. And, I think everyone needs that, in terms of having a broad range of perspectives on film. You can't just watch American films because they're not that good.
Did you ever watch a Bollywood movie and was like, this is pants?
Which one?
A Bollywood movie.
Oh yeah, I stopped watching them. I couldn't. I stopped watching them. Yeah, I'd much rather watch a Hollywood movie than a Bollywood movie, even now. Yeah.
But the Korean, if I mentioned the Korean directors, they have made some magic.
Oh, they got some
Parasite
style,
was amazing.
And if you're looking for cool, if you're looking to make a character look cool, they're the masters of it. I mean, their cinematography is always so crisp. It has a certain look. You know the way Hollywood has a look and Netflix has a look, and I hate the Netflix look. Yeah, I dislike the Hollywood look mostly, but the Netflix look I really dislike. But the look and feel of their films is just different. It just got something about the way the lighting is out there or the way that they frame it out there. It just looks different. They make the characters look so cool, and I feel like one of the keys to making a really, really good film is make your characters look cool, make those actors look cool. They'll thank you for it.
Well, okay, so that's kind of taking me on to the next question, where you've done so many documentary type movies.
Yeah.
And again, even when I saw Medina, like you mentioned, some of the shots that I saw, I've been in Medina several occasions, and even I was like, wow. And there was parts of that I never even knew existed in Medina. But then it takes me to like, do you see yourself now veering into doing more feature productions with actors and that kind of traditional movie making?
I mean, absolutely. Look, here's the funny thing. Going back to when I was that 10-year-old picking up that camcorder for the first time and becoming obsessed with it, right? I wasn't a 10-year-old thinking I want to become a producer, director, or make these spiritual documentary type movies. I wanted to make action movies. I wanted to make thrillers. I wanted to make war films. I wanted to make science fiction films. I wanted, that was my dreams growing up. But obviously, as I matured and got into it, and then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put these in my path. These films came to me, so of course I made them, and I think that was my path into it. And a lot of feature film directors I actually started off as documentary film directors. A lot of them, as we talked about earlier, is getting that opportunity, make something that will get you noticed. Literally, that was the route for a lot of directors. Was that documentary style, and they bring that realism. They sometimes say, "Oh, the film was really gritty realism in this movie." That's from documentary background. That's where that comes from, So I feel like I have that, and definitely, I think a natural progression for us now, and something we're working on currently is producing our first feature film, which is a drama, actually a drama stroke horror film that we're working on now. And so, inshallah, when it comes out, I'll be back on your podcast.
That's interesting.
Promoting it, yeah.
Drama/horror film. That sounds interesting for sure.
Yeah. And like all my work, stamped with spirituality, stamped with a kind of a throwback to those times of timeless storytelling, where stories that we've grown up with, especially that I've grown up with, stories that come out of the Quran I'm talking about, these stories that have been around for thousands of years and still fresh, still original, and revealed over time, and it just built up. Not when you look at that, say if you read a story from the Quran 10 years ago and you read it again now, got a completely different perspective on it, because the time is and the knowledge is continually shifting. They're like two paradigms continually shifting. So I'm really interested in this. I'm really interested in that balance between time and relevance, and how you look at something, at a certain point in your life, and you could look at something at a certain point later in your life, like maybe after kids, or a big life experience, like maybe after a heart attack, or maybe after you've been to Hajj for the first time. These are big moments in someone's life. I think the birth of my son tremendously affected me like that, and I think my whole perspective shifted. One day in the Haram, having that film and having the success of that film completely transformed the way I looked at things. So I think you have these moments, and I'm really interested in bringing those moments into the screen. But one other thing, you'll find this funny actually, because I know you wanted to talk about AI later. We're going to talk about AI, but one thing that really interests me is the first kind of science fiction film with an Islamic perspective in it. I find that fascinating. Like, say if we go so far into the future, and we're so far into the future, and is Islam still there? Of course it's there. So how does it look? How does it feel now? Like, what's changed? Has anything changed? I find those kind of questions, and that is a big dream of mine, to make that science fiction film with, from a Muslim perspective, in outer space or something like that. I am just absolutely fascinated with that idea. So a lot of my creative time and creative thought, when I'm just doodling, having fun, just with my thoughts, that's where my thoughts go to.
I'm thinking Muslim Star Wars, brother.
Oh, subhanAllah. Yeah. We definitely be the resistance.
Luqman Skywalker.
We'd definitely be the rebels.
Oh yeah, I think that's for sure. Depends who produces it. I'm sure we'll be the rebels.
Well, we have to have our own producers to own our own narrative. So this is very important in the big scheme of things. Yeah, in the big scheme of things.
It kind of. I mean, there was a bit of a segue on like when you did do your movie, Night in the Haram, and when it's also picked up by other mainstream. And sometimes can the mainstream ask to take it from you and then change its narrative almost?
I mean, we did have some uncomfortable conversations like that. We did have some, I won't say what channel it was, but one of these mainstream channels who were really interested in the film. Obviously, Amazon picked it up eventually, and that was great. But before we'd gone to Amazon, we'd approached this channel and sat down with some of the executives there at the channel, and they're literally like to me, your film's amazing. It's much higher quality than what we have on the channel. And they were a big budget channel. It's much higher quality than what we have on the channel. But yeah, we would have to have, what do they call it, editorial control over this. Because you've made it from a perspective of Muslims, and we're obviously a mainstream channel. We want to make it more mainstream. Now, when they said that to me, I just had alarm bells. I just didn't want to do it. I just went cold to the whole idea, even though before I'd been quite excited about that deal, thinking, yeah, that'll be a really good deal. This film will get out in front of millions of people, which it would have. But, you know, that compromise there was just one compromise too much. I mean, I'm happy to compromise. One Day in the Haram is a compromise. The whole film is a compromise. Not the whole film, actually, but certain parts of it are a compromise because, you know, when you're dealing with access to such an important historical and spiritual place, then you have to make compromises. Give you a quick example, there's no female representation in One Day in the Haram. There's no female voice in that haram. Now, with my director's hat on my British Asian mentality, obviously I'd gone to Saudi and said, yeah, who's the female character? Where, or, you know, can I interview some of the sisters? What roles do the female guards? You know, the female guards. Oh, that's really interesting. Let's interview some of them. No. You're not
No, brother.
No, brother. And I was like, you know, sitting around a table discussing, you know, you have to pick your fights very carefully. Because if you don't pick your fights very carefully and you pick an unwinnable fight, all you're going to do is jeopardize the whole project. And my overall aim is, let's get the project made. Let's get the film made. So I had to compromise on that. I had to let that go because I knew when I was sitting around that table, there wasn't a single face that was going to support me on that. If I'd turned around and said, no, I'm putting my foot down, I must have female representation, they would have just cancelled the film. And is that what I wanted? That that wasn't what I wanted. So you have to compromise, and you have to be able to compromise. You have to be able to negotiate. And, you know, with filmmaking, I just find you have to wear so many hats. There's so many different hats for different parts. It's like people come up to me sometimes, especially the young guys, you know, the media students that I do some talks at colleges and stuff. And they say, you know, tell us about your next film. Like, and I'm like, well, what part of the next film do you want to know about? Do you want to know about the script and the pre-production? Do you want to know about the budgeting and you know, the casting? Do you want to know about, you know, the post-production and the grading and the sound the sound mix and the soundtrack? You know, do you want to know about the actual production and how we're scheduling it, the shot lists? Do you want to know, you know, what part of the film do you want to know about? It's a very big,
just a story, brother.
It's literally a beast, brother. It's a beast.
Imagine.
There's so many moving parts to it. It's incredible when it comes together. That's why it's so fulfilling, because it is a really big project. But you know, to make a film is something that will take a lot of time out of your life, because there's no shortcut. I mean, there might be now, AI in a couple of years might be able to make a film like that, but you know, the way that we've been making films, I mean, each film has taken over a year out of my life.
So it's a good way to segue now into the AI part, I think.
Yeah.
Because AI is making some ridiculous amounts of headway. Yeah, definitely. And like, I saw the other day a Dave Chappelle skit. It was funny. It was hilarious. But somebody had put Donald Trump on there, and he's rapping. In fact, I saw this morning. I saw a video someone took of, like, it's the Queen Elizabeth II. Oh, yeah. God rest her soul, bless her. And she's doing like the crip walk. And it was hilarious.
Hilarious.
But it's so crisp.
Yeah.
On two hands, I'll be honest with you, I would listen with two sides. One part of me was obviously finding this hilarious, it's a joke, it's brilliant. But the other part of me was like, this is quite scary, because that's incredibly lifelike. And at one point, like, look, I know my parents have been sucked into AI videos, and they told me, like, oh, can you imagine this is what happened today? I'm like, Dad, this is AI. This didn't happen. But where does it end when something becomes so realistic? You're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh.
When I first saw the deep fakes, you know what my first thought was? When I saw the deep fakes, my first thought was, I'm so glad that over the last 10 years or however long social media has been around, I've never posted pictures of my kids. That was literally my first thought. And my second thought was, I'm glad I've not posted pictures of my wife either. Because I saw, you know, this thing is kind of scary, as you say, because this is not, you know, filmmaking. This is AI just being used to make things that are funny, that's great. But there's a dark side to that. There's a dark side to human nature. And the people who are on that dark side are going to exploit this, and you know they're going to exploit this. And I read a really terrifying report, I think in the New York Times, or one of the main papers in America last week. It was just last week I was reading this, and it was literally saying that there was a woman who had been Grok, you know, the Twitter AI. Grok can basically undress humans. So you can literally take a photo of someone and you can say to Grok, oh, put her in a bikini, for example, put her in this compromising position, put these props around her. And, it is just terrifying. I can only imagine, and several women who it's happened to have complained about this to Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, like filing lawsuits, etc. It's all going on at the moment.
The scary part is the underage stuff.
Yeah, oh my God.
They found out a grok, 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds.
One of the things that terrifies every parent is pedophiles, right? It's one of the worst nightmares for any parent. Anyone who's produced a child is going to fear for that child. And now this is just a tool that is kind of on that level as well. I mean, I don't like to even think about how dark that could go. But yeah, these are women who are undressed by grok and pictures posted online, and as you know, once something is online, it's there forever. I mean, this is absolutely a terrifying development. So there's a dark side to AI, and I don't think we've seen all of it yet.
On the flip side of it, there's a defense now. That wasn't me, man. That was an AI video.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a way they've got to be stamped with something. Like every single video needs to maybe have an AI distinction on it. But obviously, there's hackers and there's people out there, so you're never going to really be able to manage. How are we ever going to manage that? How is the world ever going to manage that? Because
you've seen
Yeah.
You've seen Running Man, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. See, do you remember the part where they're trying to make the guy, Arnold's character, like he's a bad guy,
and that he died, the other guy killed him. Like,
there was that scene.
That was that scene, and there was the helicopter.
Scene, where they were manufacturing like him to be the bad guy, and they were showing it to people like, here he is, he's massacring.
Oh my God, yeah.
I can see that happening.
I can see a time coming where no one will be able to tell what the truth is anymore. Because if you can just make a video that is so realistic, it looks like the truth, you can put people in that video who look exactly like they are in act and have mannerisms exactly like they do in real life. How is anyone going to tell, in 5 years from now? Because we're just at the start of this.
Yeah.
We're just at the start of this. In 5 years' time, the way it's advancing, how is anyone going to tell what's real and what's not? And I feel like this comes back to a very famous passage in the Quran, actually. Sorry to bring it back to the religion, but in the Quran, it literally says the truth will become like holding on to hot coals. It's like, and I'm looking at AI and thinking, wow, it is just going to become impossible. So AI has definitely got a very dark side to it, and it's something that's going to veer off in ways that we've not quite thought about just yet as repercussions, as side effects. Because we're saying, okay, it's AI, it's going to help filmmakers, it's going to help this, it's so smart. ChatGPT is so smart, it saves you so much time. We talked about editors earlier, it saves a massive amount of time in post-production, the AI. But what about the repercussions of it? What about some of the other things? What about some of the dark things? I don't think we've considered it. It's like giving, back in 10 years ago, they'll give mobile phones to kids, and they don't actually know the repercussions because no one's done the studies. The studies will take 10 years to do. So you have to do a 10-year study to have really good valid data on a large scale. So even now, no one really knows the effects mobile phone are going to have on young kids' minds and how they're going to develop. Although the signals are coming out, the studies are starting to come out. So, this is something that they didn't think about when it first came out. So similar with AI, I mean, who's thinking about this stuff and who's regulating it,
Okay, you are kind of scaring the life out of me for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm scaring myself, brother.
But can we flip into the AI's creative process?
Yeah, let's do
as a filmmaker.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
a videographer, filmmaker. Like we were saying earlier, I found that you can create with a prompt some phenomenal production to your video.
Yeah, man.
So does this mean now that small-time cinematographers, small-time videographers now have access to essentially create scenes which would have cost thousands of pounds in production?
You know what it is? AI has, within filmmaking, or especially within the filmmaking community, is seen as like a democratization of the process. Because before, okay, there's the big studios and no one can reach their levels with their £100 million budgets or whatever. And then there's a level underneath where a lot of people can operate within that level. But entry level, it's not entry level. So you can't just jump in there. But now it's like it's a level playing field. It's almost like, and I'm not saying it's there right now in terms of film production, but it will be within a couple of years. The rate it is going, it will be able to produce entire films within a year or less than a year. So you'll see AI films coming out, and it's just leveled the playing field for everyone. And, I often get asked, are you worried about AI? Like, because most filmmakers, my editor, my post-production supervisor also completely terrified of AI. They're like, oh my God, they're literally a threat to their jobs, yeah? Because, you can literally prompt the edits. So you don't need to explain to the editor, I'd like it like this or like that. Yeah. You can literally prompt it and AI will do it in seconds.
You're saving
do it
like
in seconds.
4 to 6 hours.
We started using, when we was editing post-production of Medina at the beginning of this year, we started using AI for the sound, because that normally takes a long time, is, fade the sound in, fade it out here, fade it out there. You tell AI what to do and literally within 5 seconds it would fix something which would normally take 2 or 3 hours of work. So it saves you hours, and then those hours clock up, so it ends up saving you, 50, 60 hours on a production, on a post-production. So these things have definitely positive advantages for AI. But, when people ask me if I'm worried about it, I'm actually not that worried. I mean, it's funny because do you remember when the Red camera came out?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when the Red camera came out, and it completely like changed the playing field for a lot of producers and directors, because it produced cinema quality optics, right? Cinema quality visuals, where previously you'd have to have film and slice it up in the edit, and this whole process of actual film, shooting something on actual film, which is like a negative, right? When these cameras came out, I was one of the ones who was overjoyed because I was trying to break into the industry, right? And the Red came and I was like, that's fantastic. That's my tool. Older cinematographers that I knew at that point, that I had conversations with, they were like really bitter about it. They were like, why did I spend 10, 15 years developing my craft as a cinematographer, working with film, and now these young kids are just coming in with cameras. But for me, I was loving it because I knew, okay, now this is going to create so much more opportunities for me, and so many of the barriers have been removed. So it's the same way with AI now. Like, I could look at it as a threat and think, okay, well, this is really bad for me or my career, or my, so many more people are going to come in. But I think that's amazing. I think I'm really happy about that, because I think, it's literally like me 10 years ago when the Red came out. It helped me. So I think it will help a new wave of filmmakers who will get into the industry and express their creativity through that way. But yeah, I mean, I think people who are at different stages of their career will think about it differently.
Have you dabbled with the AI video model?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Have you played about the production?
The
transition styles and everything else?
Yeah, it's done amazing. For fun first, just to see the capability, and still just testing the capability, because there are projects, but I've never put any AI into an actual project, or we've used it to save us some time on audio post or whatever, boring, mundane tasks that we'd have to sit there and do it. So it's automated a lot of tasks, which is great. I've used it for, ChatGPT especially is good, I find, for idea generation. So if I have an idea for a script or something, I can run it by ChatGPT, and it's almost like, I'd have to meet 5 different qualified people to say, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this idea? So again, it's a time saver. It, really saves a lot of time in that way, in terms of generating ideas and discussing ideas and giving you viewpoints on ideas. I find what Paul Schrader, do you know Paul Schrader? Look, Paul Schrader is a screenwriter, right? He's a Hollywood screenwriter. He actually wrote Taxi Driver, and he won an Oscar for it for best screenplay. So he's not just a screenwriter; he's a top of the notch, top of the tree screenwriter. Paul Schrader said in an interview that he wanted to test ChatGPT. So he was like, I'd just written this script that I'd been working on, and it wasn't quite finished, but it was a script, and this was going to be my next feature film, because he's a director as well. Actually, he directed that film called First Reformed, which was actually a film about a religion, funnily enough, and with Ethan Hawke. Amazing film, First Reformed. If you ever get the chance, watch that. But anyway, so this guy, this highly qualified, Oscar-winning Hollywood screenwriter, he put his prompts in to write him a script based on the characters and the script that he's written and the scenarios that he's written. And it was amazing, because his response was, ChatGPT came out with something that was much better than the script I'd written.
Oh boy.
And this is coming from a Hollywood scriptwriter who's at the top of the tree, one of the most qualified and creative scriptwriters, just an amazing scriptwriter. And if he's saying ChatGPT wrote something that I wouldn't be able to write, or something much better than what I'd produced, then obviously this is the future. I don't think many people are gonna sit there and literally write scripts. Not now, I'm talking about in the future, like 5 years time or whatever. I don't think many people are going to take that process of script writing, which is a long process, which is a trial and error process of seeing what works and how characters develop and everything else. ChatGPT is going to do it in like a day, if you're doing prompts in a day, that's not ChatGPT's work. Obviously, it does it in 5-10 seconds, a minute or at most, but literally putting the prompts in might take you a day. You'll have a fully fledged script. A friend of mine is working on an AI model at the moment. He's at the University of Bournemouth, which I think is meant to be quite high on the AI kind of training. At the University of Bournemouth, he's basically developing a AI that has analyzed every single Oscar-winning film script. Every single. So what it's done is put together where the beats are. So it's go, okay, this is where you need to put some humor. This, it's basically built a template of Oscar-winning scripts. And so you basically type your idea for the script and say, look, I want to do a film about this. These are the ideas. These are the characters. And this software will literally churn it out. This software will literally churn it out. So it's quite incredible the way that's going. And I think, if I was a script writer, if that was my full thing, my full-time gig, I would be probably quite worried now. I would be thinking, okay, I need to, either get into AI so I know what I'm doing with it and I can utilize that as a future career. But I think script writing itself might well be dead. Graphic design might well be dead. Hundreds of jobs may well be dead. So yeah, I guess people have to kind of shift their mentality in terms of, it's not a case of whether you like it or not. It's here. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's like social media 10 years ago. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's always going to be part of our fabric of our lives now. So, get used to it and roll with it, So I think that's
it's like rap
advice.
Music 20 years ago. Tried to ban that as well, didn't they? And it just got bigger and better.
Absolutely.
So what's next for Abrar Hussain then? Where should we find you? How can we keep an eye out for you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I'm blessed. The films over the last 10 years have done really, really well. So I feel privileged to be in that position where I'm not in a rush about anything. I've really learnt to take my time with the process. So I'm developing, obviously, the feature script that I've just told you about, this feature film that we want to shoot sometime, maybe summer this year or maybe summer next year. Definitely has to be a summer. Working on several new productions as well. We've expanded everything, because before it was always one film. So we always wanted to kind of, get the funding for let's make this next projection. But now currently we're in funding conversations for a next slate of films. So for the next 5 films. So inshallah, this is how we've progressed from going from single productions and then on to the next production to building a more longer term platform where we can make films that are very intentional, that are films that will stand the test of time. That's what I'm interested in doing, making films that will be around long after I'm gone, that will be contribute towards a legacy piece for me. And I think we'll continue to take inspiration from all the things around us and all the films that we see. And I hope to go forward with that, and hope to be back on your podcast soon where I can talk about these things.
For sure. If anyone wants to find you or reach you, how do they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on. We have our website, www.redfacefilms.com. That's our kind of company website. But I'm on Instagram, Abrar_Hussain_media. I'm on the other one as well. I'm on Facebook as well. Yeah, same kind of name. Yeah. So you can find me on any of those. Red Face Films on Facebook. All the socials basically. You can come and find us. But yeah, if anyone's out there and wants advice, wants help, always happy to help.
Real pleasure. Well, thank you very much, Abrar. I learned a lot, and I hope I've used it also.
Beautiful talking to you, brother. Really beautiful conversation.
Real pleasure. Well, thank you very much. So that's us, guys. So once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Any aspiring filmmakers, cinematographers, videographers that want to take the next step, definitely get in touch with Abrar. And best of luck, and we'll see you hopefully on the next episode. And we're out.
Staying hungry. Why,